Welcome back, welcome back. Well, from playing the US President in Commander-in-Chief, to Thelma in Thelma and Louise, to a secret agent in The Long Kiss Goodnight, the Oscar-winning actress Geena Davis is no stranger to roles for stronger women. Nevertheless, she is convinced that women in America, and particularly in Hollywood, get a raw deal from male-dominated industries. And she joins me now from New York. Geena, welcome. On the issue of women's empowerment and how women are seen and portrayed in the media, was there one Damascus experience where you realized about that, or was it a gradual growth in the feeling?
Right. Yes, there was a moment when I decided that I wanted to do something about it. I had a bit of an epiphany when I did Thelma and Louise, actually when it came out, because I'd certainly had people recognize me, you know, maybe in the dry cleaner or something before, and they'd say something like, oh, you know, I love Beetlejuice or whatever. So I was used to that, but as soon as Thelma and Louise came out, it was very different, especially women would come up and sometimes grab my lapels to make sure I hear everything they say and talk about how much it meant to them. And that really was a great lesson in the power of media images, because it made me realize how few opportunities women have to feel like that coming out of a movie. And the very next movie I did was League of Their Own, and when that came out, I had 15-year-old girls coming up and telling me, oh my God, you know, that movie changed my life. I play sports because of that movie. So I had, fairly early on in my career, I had a very powerful lesson in the effects of media. So, and you know, listen, being in Hollywood, you see that there are far fewer parts for women. I mean, it's just, you know, it's just obvious and a fact of life.
Right, so you still think of Hollywood then as very much a man's world?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't have to think of it that way because, you know, we know what the numbers are. In fact, the percentage of female characters in films has been the same since 1946. So all the different periods where people say, well, now things are better and things are changing and things are different now, that hasn't happened. But what I didn't realize was that there was this imbalance in media made for little kids. So the epiphany came when I was watching preschool television shows and G-rated videos and things with my daughter, who was 2, and saw what I perceived to be a very large gender gap in these things that we're showing to the youngest kids. And the interesting thing was I started mentioning it to, you know, if I happened to have a meeting with a studio executive or someone, I'd say, have you ever noticed that there seem to be so few female characters in movies made for kids? And pretty much everybody would say, I don't think that's true. No, I think they fixed that. Even if there were people who made, you know, G-rated movies. So I realized that if I actually wanted to have some impact in this area, I would need the data. So that's what caused me to form the Institute and do all the research.
And in terms of progress to date, it's obviously a mega subject you've taken on, but what signs of progress have you seen since it began, since the campaign began?
Right. Well, our study started in 1990. It went up to 2005. And during that time period, there was absolutely no change. There was no progress. We subsequently have updated the years since this study ended, and nothing's changed yet. But we know from the meetings we have, what we do is take the data and go to the various studios that make children's entertainment, producers and the Animators Guild and that kind of thing, and present the results. And we certainly have a lot of anecdotal evidence from those meetings that people are going to make some changes. They're pretty much stunned. It's really, really interesting. The general reaction is that they're shocked that this is the case. And my theory is that we are all so enculturated from the beginning to seeing more male characters, and the male characters do more interesting things. And so nobody notices. Nobody notices that there are fewer female characters. But when you point it out, then they really do notice.
And obviously it would be too much to expect the young people watching these movies to think there's anything odd about it. They're just used to it, that's casting.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's no 3-year-old girl who's going to say, "Hey, where am I? You know, why am I not there?" It's just an unconscious message that they absorb, but it's reflecting a view of culture and of society where girls are less important than boys, and you know, it has a negative impact on both boys and girls as far as how they see the importance of girls to society. We actually know from research that that the more hours of television a girl watches, the fewer options she feels she has in life, and the more hours a boy watches, the more sexist his views become.
Because people talk about women being the controlling class in America when they get older, and men being henpecked in a way, and all that. But that's not true then, when you look at the movies. Not true.
Right, right, right. No, that's not true. And it's so, you know, I don't know all the psychological reasons for this, but it's fascinating that women predominantly are the ones who make the decisions about what movies to see, and yet, you know, movies are so dominated by male characters.
You mentioned Thelma and Louise there. It's terrific to have been such a star in such a sort of eternal movie, isn't it? That movie is as hot today as ever, even though it's coming up to its 20th anniversary. It's still as relevant.
You know, I really, I feel very lucky to have been a part of that movie, because it, you know, I guess it's sort of rare to be able to be in something that's like a cultural landmark or something, or, you know, at least spoke to people. So yeah, if nothing else happens, I'm happy I was in that movie.
How do you sort out your life now then, Geena, with your campaign on women's empowerment and your acting career? Which comes first?
Well, you know, my career is my day job, so. But either fortunately or unfortunately, I have a lot of time to devote to my nonprofit work, because there's so few great parts that come along. You know, if you've been in some really good movies, it's hard to decide you're going to just play the wife or the, you know, the person that needs to be rescued. I much prefer to play baseball rather than cheer on the guy who's playing baseball. So it takes a while to wait for those kind of parts.
Then, of course, there was Stuart Little's mum, Eleanor.
Right.
A different kind of movie
Yes.
again. Did you expect that to catch on for another one and another one?
I had a feeling that people might like it, but you know, Hugh Laurie played Mr. Stewart, and sometimes we'd be shooting these scenes. Of course, Stewart was never there, and we'd be talking to the tabletop or something very earnestly, and we'd be like, "We're crazy. What does the crew think of us?" We're like crying over this speck on the table. So it's kind of funny to interact with something that's not there.
On women's empowerment, we read that Sarah Palin may run for the presidency. If Sarah Palin won, would that be a great move for women?
I can't believe you're asking me this. You know, I like to stay fairly apolitical, despite having played the president. But I wasn't independent, as you might remember. So I don't want to jump into that particular topic.
But in terms of roles you might like to play, are there women heroes that you'd like to play?
Well, there is a particular person I'd like to play, Eleanor Roosevelt. It's funny, but I think I could look like her in a movie with some help. And you know, and she was also very tall. But you know, I think she's a terrific hero and character, and certainly did a lot for women's issues.
Well, that would be a memorable movie indeed. I hope it works out.
Thank you very much, David. Thanks.
Geena Davis there. In a moment, the President of Colombia, the new President of Colombia, after this short break.